This is First Up with Kane Corns. I'm Sarah Ollie, and Kane, the Saints Ross Lyons side, they finished around in the 8 after holding off a fast finishing Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. And I thought late in that final term, in the big moments, it was the Saints that really stood up.
Yeah, so let's take a look at those. Good evening to you, Sarah. I think they were really resilient today. I thought they defended with their life. Their midfield was extraordinary. And late in the game, they were really organised. These are some of those key moments. Late, Mitch Georgiades had the Caminiti match-up and looked like he was going to be the match winner. 6 marks inside forward 50. But then Sinclair and Wangani Miller were the two across half-back. Sinclair was freed up and played free. And then we see this one from Collard, who takes a really good contested mark and has the best moment of his young career as a player with a lot to like. And that was a gutsy win where they defended like their life depended on it. And typical grit from a Ross Lyon coach side.
So it's 3 wins in a row now. Are you impressed, particularly given that first game against Adelaide when they were absolutely belted?
Yeah, they've surprised me with that. I mean, I don't think the opposition has been that strong. That Geelong win was really good, and they held on late after conceding a number of entries. But they're just performing above expectation for me. He's getting the best out of some players that aren't household names. And when he's cobbled together the midfield with some injuries that he's got in there, they did a phenomenal job. So that was a really good win on a ground that's been a bogey ground for them, where they just haven't won on regularly. So I think to travel like that, off the back of the midfield dominance, and also Jack Higgins is in all-Australian form as a small forward. That was a brilliant win.
So St Kilda were excellent, Port Adelaide ordinary at times. And Kane, you want to highlight in the second term, just too many wasted opportunities.
They were deplorable, to be honest. Like, I was really almost disgusted's too strong, but couldn't believe some of this. Like, that's Zach Butters, who just so many opportunities through the middle of the ground where good teams are going to score 8 out of 10 times, but Port Adelaide continually either overused the footy or made the wrong option, or had a basic skill error like that from Power Pepper, that from Burgoyne. Like, these just have to go through. And these are the opportunities. This is one quarter. Like, the amount of opportunities that they had, where they had all the momentum, they had dominance, but the extra handball, the skill error, trying to bring it back and taking the wrong option, which not only cost them with their inability to score, but then the Saints went back and punished them on the way out. They didn't look like a team that was anything other than a bottom 4 side today, Port.
If you are looking for a bright spark, though, I think your boy, Jason Horne-Francis, was just that. The 3 goals from 28 disposals, and it may have come on the back of a bake from the coach.
He showed some vision of us in the team meeting that, it's pretty confronting vision when you first see it. Me and Connor aren't doing it, then, other people aren't going to do it either. It's vision that you need to see and you need to have, especially after some tough losses like that.
Hey, it certainly worked, Kane. He was fired into action, Jason Horne-Francis.
Yeah, he's the best player on the ground by a mile, and if he didn't play, Port Adelaide lose this by 8 goals. So I think it's a sign of maturity for him that he's been willing to do the media, which he doesn't often do, put his hand up and say, hey, I wasn't good enough. The coaches put it on me and the captain, 2 of the biggest names in the side, and then to respond like this. Problem was they needed a couple of him because he was so dangerous, 3 goals in the first half, but he was also so brilliant around the footy here. So where best to use him, I still think, is a bit of an arm wrestle for Ken Hinkley and the coaches for Port Adelaide, because of this sort of stuff where he can go forward and kick that just amazing goal on half-time and mark. But then late in the game, he was more midfield than he was forward. I perhaps thought they should have moved him forward, but there's no right or wrong answer. But just love the response from him, because he was under fire and had rightly copped his fair share of criticism in the first 3 weeks.
Let's continue to team with a theme that is Port Adelaide, and it's time now for the volcano.
Yeah, I was so disappointed in their midfield today, just because if you line up both teams on paper and the names that are going against each other in the midfield, there is no way that Port Adelaide should have been beaten as badly as what they were today. So in the end, it was 8 goals to 1 from clearances. There's the names on paper. Tell me who wins that matchup. Well, it's going to be Butters, Horne-Francis, Rosie, the Brownlow medalist, and Willem Drew every time. This is a midfield that Ross Lyon has cobbled together. Like Garcia, McRae from another club. And that's the numbers in the first quarter. Absolutely smashed. So it was Rosie, it was Butters, it was Horne-Francis that started on ball. And that's the result in the first quarter. Contested possession minus 15. And game over, essentially, at quarter time, because your midfield, those with the big names and the big paychecks, didn't rock up. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like this. nothing scientific about this. It's just who wants it more. Ball in tight, scramble out, get a good kick forward to a one-on-one inside your forward line, fumble there, and then they're out. Well, there's a tackle here, and you think Port Adelaide have done a pretty good job, but they just weren't prepared to finish the job, which gave the Saints those one-on-one deep entries inside forward 50. This was a team that was far hungrier and more structured around the footy, and it led to a 4-1 from stoppage dominance in the first quarter with those names on paper that just shouldn't have happened. So is it Josh Carr who's looking after the midfield? Is it Ken Hinkley? I don't know, because of the confusing situation at Port Adelaide, but this just wasn't good enough.
Well, you mentioned the two men there that are part of this succession plan. Is there any world, Kane, in which it's accelerated and brought forward if these issues continue to plague Port Adelaide?
I don't know. I mean, David Koch, the chairman, has said no. In no way will they move on from Ken Hinkley this season. But I don't know. I mean, if they're 2-8, well, I'm not sure what the point of hanging around for Ken Hinkley, who's essentially been sacked, but they've asked him to stay for a year. It was a really poorly botched situation at the start of the year, and I'm not surprised that they've started the season so poorly.
It was a really entertaining game at Optus Stadium. Fremantle holding off the Bulldogs. It looked like it could go either way in that final term, but they were just so clinical, weren't they? I think in the end, the Dogs, they had 19 more inside 50s, Kane, but it didn't matter on the scoreboard.
No, it didn't matter on the scoreboard. Sam Darcy's the hottest player in football. We'll get to him shortly, but just the ease in which Fremantle were able to score, like from a lack of a number of opportunities. Like, they made their most of the opportunities, and they did it a little bit too easily for me. I think the criticism I've had over Luke Beveridge coach Western Bulldogs sides is that defensively they haven't been strong enough. So they conceded 6 goals in a row late in the second term, and it wasn't through a barrage of entries. They just made the most of them. Here's an example of just how easily they were to score against. I mean, that's lace out sort of training stuff. So I think when they review this game, the Western Bulldogs and Luke Beveridge, we go, well, once again, we weren't good enough defensively, and we allowed the Dockers just to have a moment where they piled on the score, and was probably the difference in the game in the end.
You mentioned Sam Darcy. I could just watch him play all day. This 21-year-old who was 208 centimetres, Kane, 5 goals, 21 disposals, 11 marks. He could be absolutely anything.
He already is. I mean, we have a Brownlow medal, but I think we should also have most valuable player, because he's not going to get recognition on Brownlow night. But right now, he's the most valuable player in football. There's no one doing this. His first half was just extraordinary, and once again, he's doing it against good opponents. So it was Pearce. I was surprised that they went to Draper. I didn't think that was a favourable matchup, and he made the most of that. We're seeing that one there. The Draper matchup was bizarre. They got that wrong. It should have been Pearce all day, but it didn't really matter. And it didn't really matter that the Dockers were eventually sending 2 to him. That's what he can do. He can do it in the air, and he can do it on the ground. So he's a freak. I've never seen anything like it. And he would be the player that you'd be most excited about in football. He's going to be right in the All-Australian conversation. He's going to be right in the Coleman Medal conversation. And he right now is the most valuable player in football. He's extraordinary.
Earlier in the day at NG Stadium, all eyes were on Oscar Allen and his Eagles, who were absolutely thumped, may we say, by the Giants. I mean, after the week that Oscar Allen had, where he had to apologise to the fan base, his teammates, anyone at West Coast, after meeting with Hawthorn coach Sam Mitchell, I was expecting a bit more of a response from Oscar Allen, but he was completely blanketed by Sam Taylor and Kane. He was a real non-factor, to be frank.
Yeah, he was a non-factor. And look, they may have to play him back, because we'll get to Hogan in a minute, who kicked 9 from 9 kicks. But it was really strange that they opted for Tim Kelly to toss the coin. 100 club games, I think it was. What a very insignificant milestone, I would have thought. And you'd think after the week that he'd had, you would have sent Oscar Allen to shake the hand and let's go, I'm the captain. I'm here. But, I mean, it's always going to be hard to play in West Coast forward line, but he's done a really good job in poor West Coast sides in the past, and sort of kicked 50 plus when they were really struggling on their knees. They had 55 entries, but I was surprised with what the coach said after the game about essentially making him a decoy as well.
So the Giants are one of the best intercept marking teams in the competition, particularly Sam Taylor. So we actually gave Oscar the role on Sam Taylor today, and I thought he competed really well. It was a step in the right direction. I know probably didn't hit the scoreboard like he would have liked, but that was just a choice we made going into this game.
Kane, I would have loved to have been in that press conference and just prodded and poked a little more when it came to the week the Eagles had and the week Andrew McQualter had with Oscar Allen, and whose choice it was for him to stand up and apologise on Friday. There was so much going on. What do you make of it all? It's a pretty big distraction.
Yeah, big distraction. They clearly had an issue with it. I thought the press conference was an overreaction. It was like there'd been sort of a tragedy. That's the way he was talking, with tears welling up. It was a completely overblown. It was embarrassing, and that's all it was. But West Coast right now as a footy club are embarrassing as well. So Oscar Allen's not the only one letting that club down. But to hear that and to say after this week we've essentially made our captain a tagger on an opposition key defender is really strange. He's a young, inexperienced coach into his third or fourth game, so he's going to learn along the way. But I certainly wouldn't have been admitting that you'd sent your captain to tag the opposition key defender after he'd had a poor game. So, yeah, they got a lot of work to do, the Eagles, and it's going to take a long, long time to turn this once proud footy club around.
The reigning Coleman medalist, Jesse Hogan, was in fine form. He had a delayed start to the season because of that broken thumb, but he has hit the ground running. 4 goals last week and 9 goals, if you don't mind, this week. It could have been 10, Kane, but he was selfless and he handed one off at the end to Aaron Cadman. But what a mighty performance.
Yeah, great performance. He's not going to be the only one to dine out on the Eagles. Like, look how easy this is for him. I think he started on Marek, who's, look at him there, just trailing in. The size difference between those two, but he's a star. He's a Coleman medalist. The Giants are absolutely flying, and he's a key reason behind that. Cadman's building as well, so I love their forward line. I like their tools. I like Brown back into the side, and their smalls are so damaging. Darcy Jones emerging, but that's elite. Like full stretch, full speed, taking that in your hands, and he's a great finisher. So, I mean, the key forwards are having a moment, aren't they? We're seeing Adelaide's triple threat in what they're doing. We're seeing Sam Darcy, which we've touched on. Josh Tracy today was enormous. Jesse Hogan. So often at the start of the year, the forwards are dominant because the weather is nice, conditions are good, and teams are fresh. It becomes a bit harder when scores start to lower as winter sets in. So we'll watch that as well.
There was more drama today, Kane, when it came to the dramatic finish between Gold Coast and Adelaide on the Gold Coast on Saturday. The AFL coming out to say, you know what, the umpire did make a mistake when it came to that Isaac Rankin mark or free, whatever you want to call it. And on the back of that, Tim Silvers, the Crows CEO, he's come out and frustrated his lament at the situation, and not just this situation, but the fact that the Crows have found themselves in a situation like this 4 times in the last 3 seasons, Kane.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them, isn't it? It's unlucky more than anything. I'm sure that's going to turn around for them, and it's just the rub of the green at the moment. I didn't think it was an obvious one. I didn't think it was worth the AFL coming out and sending a clarification on that. He certainly didn't mark it. So I'm not sure who's watching that tape from the AFL. There's no way he controlled that footy, and that was a certain mark. And the free kick was probably there. I can understand that, but it was ticky touchwood at best. Like we see those play on. So I always question why the AFL clarify some non-decisions and others that were clearly there. And there was others in that game that they didn't clarify. It's a strange one what the protocol is at the AFL. But look, what a great game of footy. It shouldn't take away anything from that. These two teams are more than capable, as we said last week, of playing in a prelim final, and it was just a sensational game.
It absolutely was. Looking forward to seeing them lock horns again later in the year, hopefully, Kane. But let's get to the rest of the competition and let's get to the temperature test thanks to Sportsbet. And I'm not surprised to see that 2 of the biggest disappointments from the weekend, Melbourne and Carlton, they remain very much frozen.
They do. Port Adelaide are frozen as well. They looked every bit a bottom 4 side today. The Western Bulldogs, just not sure who they have beaten yet. So not sure Carlton are going to be that strong, and North Melbourne the same. So there's their 2 victories. So I'm just ready to leave them where they are. And those teams running hot. They're the hottest teams in it right now. And I've been impressed by Collingwood and Sydney to do what they've done after slow starts to the season and have themselves in a really good position as well ahead of a big gather round where we're going to see some blockbusters. Adelaide and Geelong on Thursday night, and Collingwood and Sydney on Friday night will be enthralling games.
We mentioned gather round. You're in your shed there in Adelaide. Are you excited for all of us Melburnians and everyone around the country to come and descend on your hometown?
100%. I'm really excited by it. It's the best weekend of the year other than grand final weekend. So it gets bigger and better every year. Down the Barossa this year is going to be fascinating. So I can't wait for you all to get here and celebrate the footy. I think they do it incredibly well, and we'll put on a show. The weather's going to be good again. So can't wait to welcome you all on Thursday night.
All right, well, Kane, we'll see you soon. Thanks for your work tonight.
Thanks, Sarah.
And thanks for joining us on First Up with Kane Corn. See you next week.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.